Terry and Eric. We're going to be talking about a product that they put together called GeoArchive, and it's rather timely given what's happening in recent months. So.
All right, I'm Terry McNinch. I'm one of the co-founders of ACUS Learning System and PublicWorksTraining.com. This is Eric Olis. He's the founder of Lexel, and we've come together to put this together, like Jason said. Let's see if we can. 3 years ago, in 2015, I found myself in Afghanistan twice working on a project for the UN Office of Program Services. And we were working with the Ministry of Public Works in Kabul, and then all the Department of Public Works in all the provinces around the country. The idea was to teach them a way to evaluate the condition of the highway pavement in Afghanistan, the same method that we use here in Michigan, that the road commissions and the cities use, but they wanted to evaluate, that's the ring road, the blue line that you see right there, it's the national highway, and then of course it goes off to the east and the west, and that's, you know, all the transportation that happens. There's also a spur that goes off down into Pakistan, and that's where all the goods come into Afghanistan, and all the supplies for the coalition forces, they all come through that way. So this is a really important highway. Part of this is that there's a difficulty in doing it. Contrary to going out and evaluating pavement here in Michigan, when you go out and do it there, you risk your life. Not only the fact that you're out roaming around in places where you maybe just shouldn't be, if you happen to be from a particular tribe and you get stopped by a truckload of guys with guns and you're not their tribe, they could shoot you right there. It is just a slam dunk, they don't ask questions. That's how it works. We trained the people, we sent them out, they did the work, it was amazing. They did 5,000 kilometers of the 8,000 kilometers. The two provinces, if we back up down in the south, Helmand and Kandahar, you've heard those names before in the news. They couldn't go in those two provinces. It was just absolutely too dangerous. As part of doing this, of course, you've got field work going on. There was a need to do some quality control of the people that are out doing the raiding. Ideally, you'd send somebody out and they'd spot check and do some things like that. Well, it's so dangerous. Just doing the raiding, they would take along sometimes one police truck or two police trucks. These are, you know, armed guards that would go along with them. So what I did was I came up with this idea to use just a simple sport camera and be able to collect about one picture every mile, and then we could actually follow what they were doing, because the pictures would be geolocated, and from the office we could just kind of look where it was on the map, we could compare what the rating was, we could kind of double check to see if they were doing it right. Well, as it turned out in the end, we didn't use the process, because even if they were to get stopped with the camera on the inside of the car, that could warrant them getting shot too, because you don't take pictures. Even though I have tons of footage that the guys did take and for other situations, but they just decided this was just too risky, so we didn't do it. 3 years later, now, I'm doing a consultant project with Louisiana State University, teaching parishes and cities in Louisiana the same thing that we do here in Michigan, that we did in Afghanistan. While we're doing that, well, I stumble on another problem. Now, we had a flooding here, but what we had was a flash flood. Bridge used to be there, bridge is gone. Culvert was there, culvert gone. When FEMA comes, they just look at that and go, slam dunk, bridge is gone, you know, we're going to help you. What happens in Louisiana and the Gulf states, where it's really flat, it's inundation of water. They get this, and it's there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It just sits because it's so stinking flat. The water has no place to go. What that starts to lead to, we're just starting to find this all out in the civil engineering community, is that when water sits on pavement over a period of time, there's damage it does that you can't even see once the water recedes. And what they come to find out is a few months later, all of a sudden, it starts to fall apart. By that time, you've exceeded the time limit for FEMA, or you just make your submission and it gets denied for other reasons, typically because you don't have good documentation of what the pavement looked like before the disaster to justify aid after the disaster. Now, we won't have to worry about that here with the bridges that are gone, but down there and all along the Gulf Coast, it's a really, really big deal. So I thought, why not take that same idea and we could collect pictures of the highways in Louisiana, and now you'd have documentation. So I worked up the process using some of the new technology, and it's a great idea. We could take that camera, it can collect pictures every 50 feet, we can geolocate them, we can store them. You got to be able to access them, and this is where it all of a sudden got complicated. A typical parish in Louisiana might have 800 miles of pavement. If you take one picture every 50 feet, that's 80,000 images. We're talking 300 gigabytes. This is not something you just muck around with on your laptop, right? This is massive. And trying to sort through all this mess, when you need to, that's a massive problem too. So I knew Eric was working on a little mapping project for something completely different down in his office. I kind of raised this issue to him and said, what could we do that would be easy, that would solve this whole problem? Because many agencies, they don't have GIS departments. Big cities and big urban counties, they have that stuff. But you take the city of Hancock or the city of Houghton, they don't have a whole GIS department and technicians and all the licenses and all the rest of the stuff. And even then, you still got to deal with 300 gigabytes of pictures that you got to deal with. So now I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
So yeah, we instead of having folders and folders and folders of pictures, which you're taking this with a GoPro, and if you looked at pictures from your phone in a file viewer, you just get 1,000 pictures in a folder with no information. So instead, we decided we can upload them to a map, and when you upload them, we'll take the basically the GPS data that's present with the image from the camera and plot them on where it is on the map. So this lets you confirm where your coverage is. So you can see, yes, I have covered all the roads that I think I need to. You can look at the individual pictures. You can download them. And then if disaster damages a certain area, you can circle on the map and export those specific images. And I guess the advantage here is that after a disaster, you're going to be rushed, a lot of administrative work to do these applications. The simplest part will be locating those exact images, because if you had to find those 20 pictures out of 80,000, someone would be sitting clicking through a Windows photo viewer for a very long time. And the uploads are we use Google Cloud with multi-regional storage. So basically there is a 99.9 with I think 9 zeros data durability. So basically the data is very unlikely to be lost and accessible when these agencies will need the images and expandable for dealing with the tens of and hundreds of terabytes of data that we would expect as we get counties and parishes to use this service.